So hi everyone, I'm Kerry Rowett of awakenkinesiology.com and we're here today with Denise Duffield-Thomas. Welcome Denise.
Thank you for having me again. I always love our interviews.
It's so much fun. So Denise, before we get started, would you mind introducing yourself? I mean, I think a lot of people listening are going to know who you are, but just let us know exactly what it is that you do.
Sure. So I run a company called Lucky Bitch, and my job is to help change the way that women think and feel about money so we can embrace abundance and create first-class lives for ourselves, our families, and honestly, the planet. The planet needs women to step up around money, and I like to think that I help women do that.
Absolutely. So Denise has got the Lucky Bitch Money Bootcamp, which I've been in since 2012, and it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's done so much to change the way I think and feel about money, and I'm still active in the group and read threads in the group all the time. But today we're talking about a new program that Denise is bringing out, which is called the Sacred Money Archetypes. So it's a program that you've recently become a certified coach for, Denise, but I assumed that meant that you'd only just come across it, but that's actually not the case at all.
It's not. I came across this work in 2010. I took the quiz myself. I found out all about my money archetypes, and then I didn't really tell anyone about that work. And some of it was I was creating my own money work, and I really wanted to explore that first. But the other thing, it's part of one of my money blocks is that I create things, and I'm not a completer finisher. So I love creating, but often I don't bring things to market, which I've done many times in the past. So I actually redid my certification last year in 2016, and I probably would have done the exact same thing again. Never spoken about it, or maybe just taught this in my private retreats, which I've been doing for a couple of years. But I am married to a completer finisher who now works in my business. So he forced me to bring this to market, and you know what? I think it's come at the right time. When I think of divine timing, I think of all the stuff that's been happening in the world recently. There's a bigger calling for money work now. I think there's so much need for us women to step up as leaders, be friends with money, step up to the table and be okay to control some of the money in the world. So I'm glad it's come now, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing. So tell us a bit more then, like what actually is a money type? And how can that actually help you in your life and business?
So I've been obsessed with archetype work for a long time. I love personality tests. I love learning more about myself. And I think it's really satisfying, even if it's astrology, to learn, hey, this is who you are and these are some things to look out for. So, of course, when I heard about the money archetypes and learnt about different money personalities, I think it was just a great exploration of deeper money work. And I'm a big believer in money blocks, obviously, that clearing money blocks. But what's really interesting is that you can grow up in the same family, with the same parents, with the exact same money experience, but grow up with really different experiences and different views on money. And I'm one of 4. I don't know how many siblings you have, but you probably have found that's true in your family too.
Yeah, I've got 2 siblings. Yeah, definitely true.
That's what it is. You have a particular money archetype. But what's really powerful about this work is your true personality is a combination of your top 3 archetypes. So you and I could be the same top archetype, but we experience it in different ways because of our second and third archetypes. And each archetype has its own gifts and strengths and challenges when it comes to making money, which means that there is a path for each archetype to find a way to get to wealth that feels comfortable for them. And that's why, have you noticed sometimes when you've tried to emulate someone else's business success, you think, oh, I'll just do what they did, and it doesn't work because maybe you've got completely different paths to wealth. And that's what this work can help you do.
So can you take us through the actual archetypes and just introduce us to each of them? Because I think that's going to be really fascinating. And then for each of us as we're listening in, we can just feel into which one sounds like us, but you don't have to guess because Denise has got a quiz for you.
I do have a quiz. And you know what about the guessing thing? I've interviewed a few people in the last week about their archetypes, and I couldn't guess. Like, there was a few that I thought, oh, I could guess a little bit, and two of my best girlfriends have texted me this week to say, what do you think I got? And I didn't know. It's really interesting how some of it can be really obvious to the outside, but most of it it's your hidden stuff around money that not other people would really guess about you. So there's, I know, isn't that interesting?
It's so interesting.
I got it so wrong, and I was like, oh, I should know, but no, you don't have to. There's a quiz that can tell you. Which actually, if anyone's interested in doing it while we're speaking, Kerry, you have got a link for that quiz.
Yes, it's awakenkinesiology.com/Denise.
Okay, perfect. So even if people want to start doing that now as they're listening, and then you'll kind of know a little bit more about what we're talking about. So there are 8 different archetypes, and let me think if I can remember them off the top of my head. There is ruler, maverick, romantic, nurturer, connector, celebrity. I always forget if I've said them already. Accumulator, thank you, and connector.
I think you might have said connector, but did you say romantic or nurturer?
Alchemist. Alchemist one is the last one, yeah. So, and the name is a little bit of a clue, but not always. So I'm going to start with the ruler. And this is actually my top archetype and Mark's top archetype.
How interesting.
And, yes, and that has brought up some real challenges for us, which if you take the quiz, one of the videos that I'll send you is about mine and Mark's archetypes and how we complement each other, but also how we annoy each other, I suppose. So the ruler is that archetype that is the gung-ho workaholic kind of archetype. This is the archetype who will work till 3 o'clock in the morning doing a sales page, who'll start business after business, and they never really take a break. Now, of course, each archetype has the extreme end. So on one end, if you're acting in the unhealthy part of your archetype, you might burn yourself out, get adrenal fatigue, which I know you've seen a lot in your clients. Or it can just be that real type A in an unhealthy way. In the healthy way, it might be that you are really great at starting businesses and you love creating businesses where everyone thrives and everyone wins, and you've got a lot of energy and like that dynamo energy to get things done. And of course, each archetype has its own kind of path to wealth. And on the outside, the ruler can seem like an archetype that's no problem, just make heaps of money. I'll just work harder. The problem is that you've seen this too, is that working hard doesn't always necessarily lead to the money. You have to learn how to do it with grace and ease. And that's the challenge for the ruler, to do it with grace and ease, not just hammer it with the wheelbarrow. Okay, so the next archetype is the accumulator, and this is the banker kind of the archetypes. This is the archetype who's really good at savings, really diligent when it comes to their money, really good at systems. The bad side of that sometimes, the extreme side, is where someone can be so frugal that it really impacts their life, it impacts their business because they refuse to invest in their business, they refuse to spend any money. Or they're just kind of cheap with themselves and with others. So you can see how too, if you're married to an alchemist, when you learn what makes an alchemist tick, you can have some compassion for some of their thrifty ways.
Right.
And a lot of the time an alchemist is driven by fear.
Right.
They're worried they're going to run out of money. They're worried they're going to be homeless on the street, being a bag lady if they spend a little bit more money on their business. So it can be really difficult for an accumulator to step out in faith. And even, again, knowing not just your archetype but other people in your life is really interesting, because if you're, say, promoting a program, the alchemist is the one who's going to read all of the terms and conditions. They're going to look at your money-back guarantee. So you really have to have a lot of those things really solid if you want to attract accumulators into your business, because they'll see everything, and they'll be the ones going, excuse me, you said you were going to do this at this date. Where is that? They're on it.
Detail-oriented.
Absolutely, and that's why they also make really good bookkeepers and good accountants. So you'll find a lot of alchemists, if they're not in those industries, they tend to do their own bookkeeping,
Right.
for example, or they're also really great at being critics, and so that can be a downside, but you can use that to your advantage. You can put that in your business where you help critique people, you help systematize people, you help organize people, you help find the flaws in people's businesses. So they make really good consultants, especially if they can bring in some of the other softer areas of their personality too.
So that's
now,
the accumulator.
Connector.
Okay, next.
Yeah, that was the accumulator. Now the connectors are all about people. Connections, relationships, heart-to-heart connections.
Yeah.
And one of our mutual friends, Tammy Guest, is a connector. And we had coffee this week, and I was telling her about how connectors can often have an upper limit around their business success because they resist taking their list too big or taking their groups too big because they fear that they'll lose that really strong personal connection. So, and she told me that when her list started growing, she'd check all the names and, she'd check and she'd be like, I don't know who that person is. She would resist growing her list bigger than what she thought that she could handle one-to-one. And of course, we know the power of the internet now and the power of leveraging your business. All those things can be a microphone for you to have more relationships, but a connector will naturally kind of worry that they have to choose between love and money, or helping people and making money, or being of service and making money.
Makes sense.
Yes, which again, we talk about easy paths to riches. Connectors are perfect at creating membership sites.
Yeah.
At creating high-level mastermind programs. But you've got to charge appropriately for it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Otherwise it becomes a negative for your personality type. Okay, now let's talk about the Alchemist. So I suspect you've got some alchemy in you as well. So the Alchemists are really great at inspiring and empowering other people, and often anything they touch turns to gold. So they're really good at starting new businesses, at manifesting things, at just making things go their way. And from the outside, that can often look like magic to people who don't realize what goes on behind the scenes of an alchemist. But they just naturally have that personality of things just work out for the best. Now, that's great. That's really great. You can see, though, that sometimes that can be extreme. So the alchemist is very, very comfortable at doing things last minute, because they know they can just pull it out of their butt. Can you imagine an alchemist being married to an accumulator, for example? The accumulator is like, well, where's that money coming from for the tax bill? And the alchemist is like, I'll just manifest it.
Yeah, right. Very stressful. Yeah.
Absolutely. That can feel really fearful for an accumulator, but for an alchemist, they can't understand that other people can't pull off that magic as well. Sometimes, and you've probably seen this in your business with your clients, sometimes the alchemist is really prone to burnout because they give themselves no wiggle room and they give themselves no stability to have a bit of an easy life, because sometimes they're addicted to the feast or famine. Because they can do it.
Yeah.
They can really easily do it. So the alchemist, the real contract for them is to turn ideas into gold, but not just the ideas, but get to the point where they can profit from those ideas as well.
Makes sense.
Yes. So let's talk about the Maverick. So the Maverick and the Alchemist have got some similar characteristics. The Maverick is sometimes the rebel. Those entrepreneurs who do things against the grain, against the type. They never want to be in the same box as anyone else. These are the people who come up with new and exciting ideas all the time, and they're not afraid to push the envelope a little bit to maybe even be a bit controversial. So you can think Richard Branson. When he started his Virgin brand, that would have been such a controversial brand name. I am a Maverick as my second archetype, and I call my business Lucky Bitch.
Yeah.
Which totally turns some people off. And that's a classic Maverick trait. Now, the downside to being a Maverick sometimes is you have a love-hate relationship with money. Some people reject money some people think, well, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. So sometimes they resist the tried and true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that Maverick part of you that goes, well, I know I should be marketing, but everyone's doing marketing in that way. So I'm going to do something completely different, even if it's kind of a little bit of a sabotage.
Yep. Yeah, just have to do things in a unique way.
Exactly. So they kind of ignore the things that do work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes the boring stuff works for a reason, but the Maverick is always going to resist that.
I think we might have a little
do
visitor.
you need to
Just one sec. We've got a little Bubba who just likes to be with Mummy.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So carry on.
No worries. He just likes his Mummy.
Yeah.
So the Mavericks can be brilliant entrepreneurs, but they can also be the ones who really kind of sabotage their success.
Yeah.
Because they're always trying to do stuff that's rebellious, even to the point where they know that they should do some things for their business, but they resist it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now let's go into celebrity. So again, you and I have mutual celebrity friends.
Yes.
So, you know our friend Victoria Gibson?
Yes.
She's a classic celebrity. The celebrities are the bright, shiny stars. So they love being on stage. They love wearing lots of bling. They always look gorgeous. Their branding is always very high-end and very, kind of sexy. And they really, from the outside, especially now Instagram is so popular, celebrities love Instagram. They love selfies. They love taking pictures of their latest purchase. And they can be really, really magnetic entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, the downside to that is some of those people love to show the bright, shiny exterior, but the reality of their business behind the scenes might not be that great. Some celebrities can be terrible with money. They can spend all their money. They can be in a bunch of debt. But from the outside, it looks shiny and perfect. So sometimes celebrities can get themselves into trouble because of that flamboyant spending. But of course, there are so many gifts around being a celebrity. They can be such a magnetic entrepreneur. They just have to learn to sometimes be a little bit more responsible behind the scenes with their money, so they can have that financial stability to do and be everything that they want to be.
Yeah, I've had some clients who've been like that actually. So it's, they're working on the behind the scenes stuff so that it doesn't just look amazing, that it feels amazing as well and feels really stable.
Yes, stable is the word, and stable feels really boring to some of the archetypes. Like, if you say the word stability for a Maverick or a celebrity, they're just like, that sounds really boring. So that doesn't mean then they have to suddenly become really good with numbers or do their own bookkeeping. It just means that sometimes behind the scenes they might have to automate some stuff, like automate savings, for example, a little bit of savings, or embrace passive income sources so they know they've always got bread and butter income coming in without having to go through that feast or famine, which is, really can throw them off being the bright, shiny star or being the cool, super awesome Maverick that they want to be.
Yeah.
So as long as they can embrace that stability, it can really set them up to do some amazing stuff. That's particularly for the celebrity. Then the next one is the nurturer, and I guess you would see a lot of nurturers in your business. This is the archetype that just gives.
Yeah.
They have a giant heart. They're often attracted to healing professions.
Do you know, I think a lot of the people who are attracted to Join My Align and Attract group program would probably be nurturers.
Well, I'd be really interested, and I know that in your groups you're going to probably do a little bit of a poll and see where people fall out, because I'd be so fascinated to see that, where the spread of people are in your group. And I suspect that the nurturers come up a lot. Even if it's not in their top one, I guess it's probably going to be in their top 3.
Yeah.
So these are the people, their self-worth really comes from their compassion and their giving, which means that they always do the best they can. If you join a nurturers program, it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be giving, it's going to be generous, it's going to be the best that they can offer. The problem is a lot of nurturers don't get things to market because they don't feel like it's enough.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So
I think so many people are going to be relating to this one.
Yes, a lot of nurturers get stuck in just giving freebies and never asking for a return. That's why you see people do angel card readings or tarot card readings, but then they never get around to getting paid customers because they feel they feel bad about it. They feel bad about asking money for their gifts, and they feel like they're asking for not only just even a little bit of money, but charging what they're worth. It requires every ounce of courage that they have.
Yes.
And they feel like they're suddenly flipping them out of generosity. So obviously the nurturer has tons and tons of gifts, and the biggest challenge is going to be setting boundaries and learning to empower other people in their life as well, and then learning to receive abundance in return for that, which is going to be tricky for the nurturer.
Oh yeah.
And then the final archetype is the romantic, and this is my third archetype. This has some similarities with celebrity in that they love treating themselves, they love luxury, and this could show up in people who love beautiful branding. They love to travel first class. They buy themselves things because they're worth it, or they love treating themselves after a celebration in their business. So it could be they get their first client and they go and buy a pair of shoes, or they go to a spa, and go and get a facial during their launch or something like that. It's all about the inner hedonist, making themselves feel really good and embracing luxury. Now, for some people in this archetype, say for example, because I've got ruler as well as romantic in there, so I love doing that stuff in my business. I love making things easy in my business. I love creating systems that will make things easy for me. I like outsourcing to make things easy for me. So mine doesn't show up necessarily in purchases. I've had to learn the self-care stuff a little bit more. But for other people, that might turn into, like the celebrity, not wanting to know about money because it's unsexy or it doesn't feel exciting.
Yeah.
So a lot of romantics can they don't want to look at the details of money. And that can obviously cause some problems in business.
Totally.
So the contract for the romantics is to learn to create again that security, that stability, but also letting them live life to the fullest. And that's a big challenge for the romantics. Hi, buddy.
Hey.
Hi.
I'm just a baby who likes to be a part of things.
Oh, hi. You're so cute. When I was looking at Willow, I was thinking, I wonder how early their little money personalities start to emerge.
Yeah.
And when I've asked people, like some people who were accumulators were really into saving money as a kid.
Oh, really?
They loved their piggy banks. They loved counting money. They loved hoarding money, and maybe they really judged their siblings for spending their money on sweets when they kept their money. So it's really interesting. I'd be so fascinated to see how early those things start to show up in our kids.
Yeah, that's right. It'd be so like when you've got that awareness of it as well. Like, I'm sure some people are more obvious than others. Like, as you said that, I'm like, that's my brother. Like, he was definitely an accumulator. Like, he was saving money, and he had money on the stock market when he was really young.
Because you can see how sometimes those personalities. So if someone's, say, an accumulator, but then they've got some other like ruler energy, that's when they can be really conservative. But then there's part of them that also wants to take a bit of risk. So sometimes the archetypes not struggle against each other, but you can see it is a combination of your top three. You wouldn't find someone who is just classic accumulator without some of the influences that come in from other places.
Yeah. So all of us, everyone needs to go and do the quiz, which is at awakenkinesiology.com/Denise. But you've got, a course to take people further with this. Would you like to tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So once you do the quiz, you get the first module of the course for free. And this is the overview module of your archetype. And we've already got feedback from, I think we've had almost 1,000 women take it in pre-launch, because we've just given it to boot campers at the start. So by the time we go live with this interview, it's already open. But people were just saying how accurate it was, and just hearing that overview already starts to make sense with the behaviours that you might have in your life. What the rest of the course does is we take you through the real gifts and strengths of your archetype and how you can leverage those in your business. Then we have a whole module on the challenges and really diving into things that you need to be aware of around your archetype.
Yeah.
And then the last module of the course is about alignment. How do you create alignment with where you're at? Maybe you're at the extreme of your archetype. How do you create alignment in your life around your archetype so you can profit in all ways from your natural skills and talents? Plus we have a group, we have some live workshops, we have some really awesome things. But the first stage is really just to find out your archetype. And what's really interesting is that each archetype has its own resistances to growing their business. And when it comes to even investing in their business or launching things in their business, each archetype has their own kind of unique flavor about why they sometimes, I think, procrastinate doing something that they know they should, or something that's going to grow their business.
Amazing. Well, this is going to be so fascinating. And Denise, the final question I want to ask you is, like, it's been a while since you have launched a completely new program, and obviously you work so much on helping other people clear their blocks and clearing your own blocks, but you probably haven't had, you know, the chance to do that in this way with a new launch in a while. And how has that process been for you?
Okay, so it's been interesting from many angles. So Mark and I are both rulers and mavericks, and then I'm a romantic as my third, and he's a celebrity as his third. So we're both workaholics. We can be total workaholics. The second part of that is that we can be risk takers. So we're both quite comfortable with doing things last minute, doing massive big challenges. So we set a massive challenge for ourselves to create a brand new program, and it is based on someone's certification model, so we didn't have to create everything from scratch. But we were very comfortable in doing that quickly. And that's the sort of thing that would stress out, say, an accumulator, because they'd want to have their program done 3 years in advance, and then they still might not launch it because they feel like it's not perfect. So that's been interesting to see how we trigger each other around that, or how we might say, oh, okay, well, let's go to the beach as a family today. And because we've got that workaholic energy, we've had to watch ourselves from going, no, let's not go to the beach.
Like, we can work.
Stay home and work. Yeah, like, let's just take our laptops to the beach. Or let's go and do a working lunch. And so now that we have that information, we've been much better at having some switch off time. Like last night, we were like, okay, let's finish work by this time, even though we had a ton of work to do, so we could sit and connect and watch Scandal. I
can imagine you would need such boundaries when it's the two of you, because if you had different archetypes, you know, there might naturally be one person who just was that way inclined. But if you're both wanting to just get things done,
yeah, it is. So that's been really interesting itself, seeing how we go through the program together purely on like how we are. That's our archetypes, and now that we've got that shared language, we can talk about it and you know, challenge each other to be at the healthy end, not the extreme unhealthy end.
Well, that's a very good point as well, isn't it? Is that there is the healthy end of each and there is the unhealthy end. And I know that I've heard you say as well that it's not like there is one type that you would want to be. So it's not like, well, Denise is a ruler, so I should want to be a ruler because that's the way I'm going to make more money in my business.
Absolutely. And let me give you a perfect example of that, the connectors. So sometimes the way I teach business, I'll say to people, you know, it's a numbers game. You need to be really mindful of your conversion statistics. You know, you need a big list. You need all this kind of stuff. A connector hearing that will have so much resistance because they'll hear me say it's a numbers game and they automatically go to, but if I did that, that meant that I wouldn't care about people.
Well, thank you so much, Denise, and thanks everyone for accommodating our beautiful little Bubba.
He's so cute.
He's such a cutie.
Yeah. Do you want to just tell everyone the URL again to go take the quiz and get the free module?
Yes, so please go to awakenkinesiology.com/Denise. Go take the quiz. Please share in the comments what came up for you, what your type was, and watch those videos and just learn more about it.
Absolutely. It's all about creating more ease and enjoyment for us, so we're not working against our type. We're really going with the flow of money and where money wants to flow in our lives. So it's really powerful work, and I can't wait to hear where your community falls out on those archetypes.
I love it.